Where is this even coming from? Why is this even something? Oh, Robbie, this is clickbait. Come on, this isn't serious. Why are you doing this? Why are you talking about Tarik Skubal? Listen, I'm with you. About a couple of weeks ago, I'm thinking there's no way Tarik Skubal's getting moved. There's absolutely no way. And I think there is still a very small chance he doesn't get moved or he gets moved. I think there's a very big chance he ends up staying. However, in the news lately, according to Tom Verducci, the Dodgers and the Orioles are very interested in Tarik Skubal, and they are looking to see what it would take to get a deal done. Says here, sources from the Dodgers and the Orioles confirmed they are interested in putting together packages loaded with top prospects for Skubal. There is no indication yet whether Tigers president of baseball operations Scott Harris will move Skubal, though both Los Angeles and Baltimore have the rich prospect capital to make such a trade decision or discussion interesting. Listen, yeah, he very well could end up staying, and I'll get to the Tigers' point of view in just a second. But listen, it's trade season, everyone. You can have your opinion. That's completely fair, but you never know what can happen during trade deadline season. There have been many trades over the years where we were blown away, like, wow, I can't believe I just saw that happen, right? The one that will always not sting, but will always be something that I'll always remember it is when Nomar Garciaparra got traded to the Cubs back in 2004. I still remember. I'm a young little lad sitting in my room, big Nomar fan. I had a poster of Nomar on my wall, and next thing you know, ESPN breaking news: Nomar Garciaparra traded to the Cubs, and I'm thinking, Are you kidding me? You just traded Nomar Garciaparra? We're trying to win this year. What are we doing? Why are we trading Nomar? If they could do that, anything can happen anytime, any place. So, go back to 2008. Manny Ramirez, I know I'm being a little biased with my Red Sox, but go back to the Manny trade back in 2008. That was a good team of the Red Sox that year, but Manny, at that point, there was some off-the-field stuff that was coming into play. He had been rumored to be, wanting out of Boston for a little while. And, there was some shoving of security guards happening. There was, taking pitches right down the middle against Mariano Rivera, whatever. There was a whole bunch of stuff happening with Manny in 2008. And next thing you know, Jason Bay is playing left field for the Boston Red Sox, and you're thinking, what the heck just happened, right? So anything can always happen. And, Tarik Skubal, listen, yeah, the guy's having an amazing season, a phenomenal season he's having. I think he's on his way to getting a Cy Young. He has looked incredible. He's looked incredible going back to since, when he came back from Tommy John last year. He has just been amazing. He's been healthy, too. That's the big thing as well. People have been like, what's going on there with the health? I don't think, teams would even want to trade for Skubal at this point. You never know, with the arm. But at the end of the day, this guy has shown he is completely healthy. And I think teams are convinced that if you add someone like him, that talent to your rotation, that's a game-changing kind of a move at this point. And he comes with club control. You have to remember when it comes to trades, you're not just trading for the player. You are trading for the entire package. You are trading for the player. You are trading for their contract. You are trading for their salary. There's a whole bunch of stuff that comes into play. So anytime you're wanting to think of value, you're not just thinking of the player. You're thinking of so many other aspects that go into it as well. I think most people are starting to understand that a little bit more. We're starting to get away, I think personally, from the MLB The Trade shows or MLB The Show trades when you're just plugging guys in and you just get a deal done, right? It's not like that. All right, there's so much more to it. But with Tarik Skubal, you got to think how good this guy is this year. If you put him in a rotation in Los Angeles, in Baltimore, with these two teams having World Series aspirations this year, I am not going to discount that chance of it happening. Let's talk about the Tigers' point of view. Now, a lot of people are thinking, this is the one thing I'm seeing consistently. Why would the Tigers trade Tarik Skubal. I mean, even Bob Nightingale himself put in his article recently, enough of the silly Tarik Skubal trade rumors, the Detroit Tigers are not trading him. Now, I respect Bob Nightingale. This guy has, he's done a lot here, when it comes to getting any kind of gossip he can, any kind of anything he can, right? Go back to the lockout, right? This guy was on the ground trying to get any bit of news he can. Bob Nightingale, sure, he's had a lot of slips over the years, but this guy works hard. He for the most part, does a good job. I don't agree with him putting this necessarily in the article. I don't think you should ever... I think, in my opinion, when it comes to baseball or whatever else, never say never. I've even seen Jeff Passan say it. Yeah, sure. You're probably got like a 1% chance of this guy getting moved, but you never say never at the end of the day. That's what I've learned. Now, getting back to the Tigers' point of view. They're 47-50 as of right now. They had high expectations coming into this year. There was definitely... there was more excitement about the Tigers coming into 2024. However, you're looking at the standings. They're 12 games back in the division. They're 7 games back in the wild card. Yeah, there's still a little time here. Now, if we take a look at the schedule, right, they're opening up against the Blue Jays tomorrow on the road, and then they have Cleveland for 4 games on the road. That's a pretty tough stretch, everyone. That's pretty tough, all right? Let's see how they do, right? Maybe they could win a series there in Toronto. Cleveland this year, obviously, they've been great. Let's see how that goes. And then you got the Twins, who have also been good. And then you got the Guardians once again. Oh, now I know why the deadline is on July 30th, is because there's only 30 days of this year in July. That makes sense. Now it's just dawning on me now. But they got a tough schedule here for the next, couple of weeks, right? So you got to see what is going on with them. I'm going to be very honest. I think if there is a chance of Tarik Skubal happening, I think it's going to be a last-second deal. I'm going to say that now. I think you see that right as the clock is striking 6 o'clock on July 30th, if it happens. I think the Tigers are going to wait until the very last second, and if it is the Tigers only talking with the Orioles and the Dodgers at this point, listen, 5:55, 5 more minutes left. Maybe the Orioles make a call. Hey, listen, you guys are 7 out, 8 out in the wild card. We're looking to really do some things this year. This is what we'll give you, right? We're going to give you a massive offer right here. You want to do it or not, right? You never know what could happen at that point. When you're really down to the nitty-gritty, things can change real quick. And I do think if the Tigers can improve their positioning in the standings, I think there's no chance of it happening. No chance of it happening. I'm personally predicting that the Tigers, I don't know, the offense this year just hasn't had it. Let's see if maybe they come out of the gate swinging. Maybe they can get a bit more of a consistent offense. I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect there. They've had great pitching this year, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the bats. We'll see, but they do have a little bit of time. They got a bit of a window here, but I'm still going to say never at this point. But then you can also think of the point of view with Tarik Skubal and the Tigers. Well, let's say the Tigers are out of it this year. Let's say, whatever. Even if they are 10 games back on July 30th. Well, you're looking towards next year. Well, that's when, it comes down to, let's say they get an offer. What does the offer look like, right? Let's say the Baltimore Orioles. Let's start with the Dodgers here. Let's start with the Dodgers. Let's say the Dodgers come calling here. We got baseball trade values pulled up on the screen. Let's say the Dodgers come calling here, and you got a little something brewing, right? I'm not saying this is the package that gets it done. This is just where I'm starting off, so don't go crazy on me. Relax. So I have Skubal going to the Dodgers, and then the starting point, I would have to think it would be Bobby Miller at this point, right? I would imagine the Tigers would want a young club-controlled pitcher in return. I think that's fair. I think that makes sense. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Then you got one of their top prospects in Jose DePaula. It doesn't have to be him. It could also be a Dalton Rushing. I'm just thinking about the fact Dalton Rushing, he's a catcher, first baseman. Well, if you're looking at it from the Tigers' point of view, right, they got Dylan Dingler playing well down in the minor leagues. They seem to, be high on him. He's, like I said, he's putting up good numbers this year, and he's a good defender behind the plate. So they might be okay when it comes to the catching long term. And then when it comes to first base, obviously you got Spencer Torkelson. So Dalton Rushing, could he move? Possibly, right? I don't know, maybe he could move to third, maybe a corner outfield spot. Maybe he can just be the DH and he can kind of move around a little bit. You maybe could do someone like a Dalton Rushing in this deal. Would it take both? Let's say I put Dalton Rushing in this deal, right? On paper, numbers, remember, we're only focusing on the numbers here, right? There's a lot more that goes into it. But on paper here, economically, you could be looking at something if the Dodgers were willing to part with their two top prospects, as well as Bobby Miller, and maybe another piece like a River Ryan. I don't know. Dodgers fans might not like that necessarily. What this would do, for the Tigers, getting back to my point, well, Tarik Skubal, he would be a part of your team next year. I would imagine the Tigers are going to want to compete next year, right? You probably want to hang on to Tarik Skubal. Well, this is where I think about it. Now, if you're the Tigers, right, you have been challenged when it comes to your offense, right? And if you could get yourself two bats like a Dalton Rushing, who is pretty close to Major League ready, as well as a Jose DePaula, who's a little further away, and, that's someone you could stash away, and he can come up, in the next couple of years or so. Those could be two impact bats to add to your organization. And then if you're looking at it from the Tigers' point of view, when it comes to the pitching side of things, right, you got a young pitcher in Jackson Jobe coming up eventually. And if you were able to get a Bobby Miller back in this deal, well, then Bobby Miller, that could be your guy, one of your top guys for next year. You can look at it from that point of view where the Tigers, if they could get a couple of bats, but also get some pitching to put into their rotation for next year, I don't think it's necessarily out of the question. Would the Dodgers want to do that? I don't know. But another thing to think about too, from the Tigers' point of view, look how well they have done on the pitching side of things this year. You've seen Jack Flaherty go to Detroit this year and put in one of his best seasons. Now, Kenta Maeda, on the other hand, not so much. But you have seen the Tigers, for the most part, do very well in the pitching department. Let's say you go to free agency. Let's say you got a guy like Max Fried just sitting out there. Max Fried, he takes notice of how well the Tigers have been pitching. He takes notice of the development of their pitching. Maybe the Tigers, they put together a good case for maybe some free agent pitchers to come to them in the offseason, right? So if you get rid of a Tarik Skubal now, okay, well, this deal, you get a Bobby Miller back, then maybe you can go get a free agent. Maybe you could make a run at someone like a Max Fried in the offseason, right? I'm just kind of thinking at it from all angles here, from why the Tigers would even make a deal like this, right? Again, I think it's unlikely. So, don't come at me saying, oh, Robbie, get rid of the pipe dream. They're not getting rid of Skubal. I'm pretty much on your side there, but I'm just saying never say never. So I think there are some avenues where something could happen, right? And the Dodgers definitely could be a trade partner. However, would the Dodgers have the best possible package? Well, I don't know. You got another team out there like the Baltimore Orioles, who I think could really make a run. So the trade that I have here, they could make a pretty zesty offer here too. And they have, again, you're looking at the Spencer Torkelson situation. What could happen there? But someone like Kobe Mayo, he could go play some third base, right? But Kobe Mayo would definitely, that guy probably should be in the major leagues by this point. But right now, with the Orioles, there's really no need to bring him up to the major leagues. And but that is someone that absolutely can make an impact, right? Put him as the centerpiece in this kind of a deal. That's the advantage the Orioles have in this scenario where they could do a Kobe Mayo. They could do a Samuel Basallo. In my personal opinion, if I'm the Detroit Tigers, I would want the closer to Major League ready bat, because if you're looking to compete in the next year or two, then I would probably want the guy that's going to be as close to ready as possible. I'm not saying Samuel Basallo won't end up being a good hitter, but, he's a little further away than Kobe Mayo. So at least with Kobe Mayo, you think, okay, there is a little more, he's a little more definitive, I would say. No one's ever definitive, right, coming up for the minor leagues, but I'd say there's a pretty good chance he does pretty well. You could do a Kobe Mayo as the centerpiece here, and then you can just throw in a couple other pieces. And for the Orioles, yeah, it might be a little bit of a, punch in the side a little bit, but they would be okay. So the other pieces I have, we got Connor Norby, who, that's a guy, I think is just a solid guy to have in your organization, and he, I think, is going to be a pretty solid player. He's not going to be a star by any means, but I think just a good role player, right? A guy that's going to just do some things for you in the lineup. Enrique Bradfield Jr., I think someone like him can be expendable. They just drafted Vance Honeycutt. So I know they're two different kinds of players, but, you got two center fielders there, basically. I know you guys can move around to different positions, but Vance Honeycutt, he's a special center fielder. So maybe someone like an Enrique Bradfield can be expendable at this point. That's why I found this draft to just be so interesting, because you're basically replacing, you could replace prospects just with that avenue alone. So maybe Bradfield could be included in this kind of a deal. I also got Cade Povich. Now, he's not going to be, at least right now, I would imagine, is not going to be at the level of a Bobby Miller, but that is someone you could have in your rotation next year. Just looking at all possibilities. The one advantage I would say for the Dodgers, if they wanted to get a deal done, and if they wanted to do this, they do have the Bobby Miller aspect, right? They do have that ace in their pocket if they wanted to go that route. In my head, that seems to make sense. I could see Dodgers fans out there thinking, nope, not getting rid of Bobby Miller. He's just having a tough time right now. And I could even maybe see Orioles fans saying, why would we want Bobby Miller? This guy is doing terrible this year. I'm looking at track record when it comes to Bobby Miller, and I'm looking at the years of control. That's where I'm looking. I'm looking at this year as just a blip on the radar, basically. I think both of these teams have an absolute real chance to get something done. Again, if these talks even happen, I think it is still way too early to tell. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the Tigers at this point, because they're not clear sellers. They have, I think, at least a good 10 days to figure this out. You got 3 against the Blue Jays. Then you got 4 against the Guardians. Then you got 3 against the Twins. I would say the next 10 games are going to be massive for the Tigers. And I even think that first game against Cleveland is going to be a little something to pay attention to. I think by the 29th, you will know if the Tigers will sell. I think you'll know. If they get themselves within, I'll say this, if they get themselves within 5 games of a wild card spot, I'd say you're moving into a bit more gray area at that point. If they're within 3 games of a wild card spot, Tarik Skubal's not going anywhere, right? Not going anywhere. That's what I think personally. But the Tigers, I'm sorry, at the end of the day, they're in a tough spot right now. They do have some time to figure this out. They have played well lately too, so let's see if that momentum can carry over post All-Star break. We will definitely see. So let's get to some super chats here. I saw a couple of them drop as I was rambling. We got one from Conman752. Perfect timing. You say here, I feel like Skubal is more likely to be moved in the offseason, especially if the Tigers drop off and finish like 10-plus games under 500. Plus, it would be worth getting value for him with his injury history. I see your thinking with that. Personally, to me, I think if you get to the offseason, I think he's staying. He feels like, to me, because it's kind of where the Tigers are, right? If they're in the Oakland A's position, right, where they're pretty far away, or the Chicago White Sox, I think if you're in a situation like that, then yeah, I could see that happening, right? Look at, like Dylan Cease, right? Everyone knew the White Sox were not going to be competing this year. So yeah, Dylan Cease, he can move, right? But the Tigers are still a team where there's talent on this team. And yeah, even if they trade Skubal this year, let's just throw a hypothetical. Like, not even a hypothetical. Even if you take Skubal, just pluck him off of this team. Let's say his elbow has problems or whatever. I'm hoping that's not going to happen, obviously. But let's say just the Tigers go into the offseason without Skubal. I'm just pointing, just using a scenario. They would still have a team that has a ton of talent on it where they could, try and just go for a few free agents, and they could still go for it next year. Sure, the Guardians are having a really good year. Who knows? Usually this Central is pretty wide open for the most part. I don't know, man. I think personally, I might slightly disagree with that. I think in the offseason, personally, if they still have Skubal, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I don't know. I just don't, because it's another factor that comes into play with that is, because he's kind of losing that amount of control, or I think it could happen, but I don't know. I feel like at that point you might want to think about some kind of an extension with Skubal, because you are getting closer to that free agency mark. And again, Dylan Cease had a similar amount of club control, but the team he was on just stunk, right? So it's a completely different situation there. I also want to point this out with the Orioles as well. Let me actually touch on one more thing with Baltimore. And thank you so much, Con-Man. I always appreciate my friend. Thank you so much. I'm going to point out one more thing with Baltimore. This is, if I'm going to, let's say, hypothetically speaking, let's say the Tigers, they're completely out of it. Let's say they're done. It's over. Put the nail in the coffin. If I'm picking between the Orioles and the Dodgers, if I'm looking at a team that wants him more, I'm going to say Baltimore. And here's why. I'm going to throw another caveat into this. What's going to happen with Corbin Burns in the offseason, right? I mean, he's going to be looking for money at the end of the day, right? I'm not even seeing one thing out there of Baltimore looking for any kind of extension. He's pretty much said he wants to go out into the market and test it. How far is Baltimore going to be willing to go for Corbin Burns, an organization that has not been spending all that much money, right? Are they going to pay what it's going to take to get Corbin Burns, $250 plus, $300 million? I don't know. So you could see Baltimore right now in a situation where you're going into next offseason. Let's say Corbin Burns, he goes elsewhere. Let's say he goes to the Dodgers, right? I don't know where the heck they get all this money, but whatever. Let's say he goes there. Well, what's Baltimore going to do for next year? I mean, who knows what's going on with all these injuries, right? I think it's safe to say Grayson Rodriguez will be fine. But who's your Corbin Burns next year? Who is your guy? Are you going to go into next season with Grayson Rodriguez and guys with arm problems? If you go for Skubal now, and sure, I understand he has that injury history, but he's looked fine for the most part over the last year. You would have Skubal for next year, and you would have him for the year after that. So I think that is something to think about when it comes to the Orioles' point of view. I don't know, man. I think they really might. They're going to try their darndest to get him. I don't know. But let's say Skubal doesn't work out. Let's say Skubal doesn't work out. Let's say he's off the board. He doesn't go anywhere. He goes to the Dodgers, whatever. Well, how about Garrett Crochet? So we have seen a little something on Garrett Crochet. And taking a look here, we saw a little story with Crochet and the Padres. Now, there has been a little something with the Padres and Crochet as of late. So Bob Nightingale had in this article as well. When was this article posted? by the way. This was it Sunday? This was 4 days ago. So, yeah, July 14th over the weekend. So, he also put in here that the Padres are really, it seems like they're trying to go for Crochet. Where the heck is this part of the article? Goodness gracious, I can't find anything. Crochet. There it is. So, it says here, the San Diego Padres recently made an offer for Garrett Crochet, but it was quickly dismissed. While rival GMs are uncertain now whether Crochet will be dealt, the White Sox still fully intend to move him. Now, you might be thinking, well, why are rival GMs uncertain if he gets moved? The big thing with Garrett Crochet, I see you in the chat, one of our members, N Rocks. Crochet is on an innings limit. In my personal opinion, I think right now, for this season, you have to look at Garrett Crochet like Andrew Miller back in 2016. He's going to have that limit. I don't know what that limit is. Is it going to be 150 innings? I'm not quite sure. If we were to pull up here, Garrett Crochet, let's go see here. So I believe he is at... Yeah, I was about to say, he's right near 100 innings, right? He's got 107.1. Is it going to be 125? Is it going to be 150? Maybe 150 if you kind of go like shorter stints with more rest. I could maybe see something like that. But then you got the postseason too. So you got to think about it from that point of view. I think you have to look at Garrett Crochet as like an Andrew Miller as of right now, which is not going to make him any cheaper, by the way. So when you're looking at the Padres here, we're looking at the Padres, right? Let's do a deal. We got San Diego on the board. We got the White Sox. Let's do Crochet. As you can see, as of right now, you're looking at right under $60 million when it comes to the median value. That's the median value. As I try to remind you all, there's always a range, all right? And these are not set in stone numbers. These are just algorithm kind of numbers. You plug some numbers in and it spits a number out, right? There's a bunch of different factors that come into play. So that's why they offer ranges here to really, just kind of, that's where you can bring some variables into play, right? Different team philosophies, what the market's looking like. That's why you have ranges here. So the low point is a little over $45 million, and that's still pretty expensive overall. I wonder if you end up seeing something going back to the White Sox, probably closer to the median value. I would imagine probably the median is going to be the high point. I could be wrong. He still has a few more years left of control, right? Garrett Crochet, or he has 25 and 26. Sorry, he's got 2.5 years of control. I think they need to update that. It says is 3, or no, I was looking at the wrong thing. I'm so sorry. 2.5 years left of control. So you have him for this year, you have him for a postseason run, and then you got him for 2 more postseasons after that. So Crochet and the Padres, right? If you're looking at the Padres right now, they've been, suffering some injuries this year. They should be getting Yu Darvish back at some point. Or actually, he's already back? Or where? Okay, so okay, that's right. But whatever. Darvish is going to be coming back, and then Musgrove, he hopefully should be back this year. He's been dealing with some arm problems. Is there an update on Joe Musgrove? All right, so it says this past week he was slated to throw a bullpen session. So, either way, they're going to be getting healthier here. And, they got a couple of guys from the bullpen on the IL, too. You got Tom Cosgrove and Wandy Peralta with the groin. So, when it comes to the Padres, yeah, you could definitely think about someone like a Garrett Crochet in this rotation, right? Dylan Cease, he's been really solid for them this year. Michael King got off to a bit of a bumpy start, but he's looking great. He's looking like a great pickup there in the Juan Soto trade. Randy Vasquez, he's, I think fine. for the middle of the rotation. Waldron, he's been a fun story this year. So yeah, for the most part, Padres rotation is looking good. But I think you can make a case for Garrett Crochet to be a bit of a difference maker here in San Diego, because he's a guy that can, come in multi-inning spots in the postseason if they get there, and down the stretch as well. He would basically just be the fifth guy, right? Or the sixth guy there, right? You can open games with him in the postseason. You can bring him into high leverage spots in the postseason, right? And that's the one thing with him too, is he has that bullpen experience, right? So it's not like it's anything new or foreign to him. So yeah, I could definitely see a situation where he fits with the Padres, and they're right there in playoff contention right now. So yeah, I think it's a good landing spot for him. Now the question is, do the Padres have the pieces to get a deal done, or do they have more than what other teams might be willing to offer? So if you're looking here, you're not giving up Ethan Salas. Don't even start that conversation. Don't even start that conversation. It's not happening. And when you go down the board here, you're not doing King, you're not doing Waldron. I mean, I guess you could do Waldron, but I don't know. That seems like just a weird piece to send back. Cease, no, he's not going anywhere. Now, you got someone like I'm always blank on how to pronounce this. Is it Leodales DeVries? I'm sorry if I'm botching that. I know I'm botching it. I'm going blank. But that would be easily a main piece that would go back to Chicago. Now, Robbie Snelling, he's having a tough year. His value has really dropped. Dylan Lesko, he's having a tough year. His value has really dropped. So when when you're looking at this package here that could go back to Chicago, it's because Snelling and Lesko are not having good years. Maybe I will also point this out. San Diego has always had this weird way of being able to get deals done. You know what I'm talking about? Like over the last few years, like we've seen them make trades, and you turn your head once and then twice, and you're like, wait, what? How, they fleeced them again? The Padres have like this weird way. Now, yeah, that didn't happen with Dylan Cease, right? I think that was a pretty fair trade overall. So the White Sox, they didn't fall for that. So I don't think that's going to happen here. And getting back to what Bob Nightingale said, it said the trade proposal was quickly shot down. My guess is I would have to imagine at least two of these guys were included in some kind of a proposal. My guess is at least Snelling or Lesko or both were involved in a proposal. And if I'm thinking, all right, it was quickly shot down, probably because Snelling and Lesko are not having good years. So that's what I think. I don't think the Padres are going to be able to get something done. I just don't, unless they were willing to do Ethan Salas, but that's not going to happen. If you don't trade someone like an Ethan Salas, it just doesn't happen. You definitely don't do it for Garrett Crochet, for crying out loud. So personally, I think the Padres won't be able to get a deal done for this. Now, where I think, personally, for me, I think the perfect spot for Garrett Crochet, I know there's other teams out there, that where it could be a nice fit. I think the Dodgers are a good spot. Now, when you're looking at Tarik Skubal, yeah, they could get a deal done there if they really wanted to. I personally think the Orioles, they might have more of that motivation, not just to win this year, but because Corbin Burns is going to be a free agent in the offseason. I think there is that motivation, right? When you're looking at it from the Dodgers' point of view, well, the Dodgers, they can go throw some money at Roki Sasaki in the offseason, right? So it's not like that. Yeah, the Dodgers would love to have someone like him, but I don't know. I think the Orioles could have an edge there when it comes to motivation, at least. That doesn't mean the Dodgers, don't have to, try and pull off a big deal. I think they could go after a Garrett Crochet, and I think that would make a lot of sense for them because the Dodgers have a lot of starting pitching like the Padres do, like I just showed you. So I think they can fit Crochet onto this team. And, because they're going to have Yamamoto come back eventually. right? You got some other guys there that are, dealing with some rough times, right? Tyler Glasnow, he'll be back eventually. So they're going to have guys that can start postseason games. Crochet is a guy where he can be that perfect Andrew Miller type for the Dodgers. I think he fits that team so well, and they got pieces they can send back here, right? I don't think you would have to do a Bobby Miller in this deal. I think the White Sox would love it if they could do that. If they could get him, I don't know if Bobby Miller is even a trade piece. I think for someone like Skubal, who is going to be a definitive, game 1, game 2 starter for you, yeah, I could see, that happening. Bobby Miller going back in a deal to the Tigers. But in this situation for Crochet, who's, yeah, you're going to have him for 2 more years after this, but is that, you're giving up Bobby Miller for a guy that's going to be an Andrew Miller type? I'm not quite sure about that now, but they got some other pieces, right? You got a DePaula there. You got a couple of decent pitching prospects a little further down. You got River Ryan, right? So when you include those two, well, now, at least from the numbers point of view, you're starting to get a little closer here. And, hey, they could send back someone like a Yoendry Vargas, right? And when you actually look at these 3 pieces here, I mean, you're very close at this point. I think one more prospect probably gets this done. I don't know. Maybe you could even just, I don't know why would they even want this? Maybe just throw back Gavin Lux. I don't know. Right. I'm just pointing out that you could probably just throw in one more piece and you could get a deal done here. So I think the Dodgers, they make a lot of sense for Garrett Crochet. Personally, I think Tarik Skubal makes more sense for the Orioles. And I think Crochet makes more sense for the Dodgers. That's just my opinion. We will see. Also, while I'm on this topic, there's something I'm forgetting to say. There's something I'm forgetting, and I want to say it. I felt like it was important, and I can't remember it. I'm hoping it comes back to me. But let me actually get to this one really quick. Since we're talking about the Orioles, right? They're all over right now. Oh, I remembered what I want to talk about. I want to also point out one more thing with Baltimore. One more thing when it comes to acquiring a Tarik Skubal. Go back to 2017. Mike Elias, what did he do? He saw a good team. He had prospects. Justin Verlander, who also just so happened to be on the Tigers, saw the opportunity, and he got it, right? He got it done, and he got Justin Verlander. I mean, it's very interesting how it's, it's like history repeating itself in a way, right? Just pointing that out. But I also want to talk about a little someone named Mason Miller. Now, in my yearly one trade for each team, did I get to the right spot there? I think my stream is a little behind. Okay, so in my once a year, one trade for each team video. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. I did not include Mason Miller in that video because at the time of creating the video, I'm thinking, I don't know, it just feels pretty unlikely that Miller moves at this point. But there was a little something here today from John Heyman. It says here, the Orioles have expressed interest in Marlins lefty Tanner Scott and A's righty Mason Miller. This is what I'm thinking with that. This is my personal thinking with this. I think the Orioles, if they are unable to get Tarik Skubal, I think they will shift their attention to Garrett Crochet. And if that doesn't happen, I think they shift their attention to Mason Miller. I feel like Mason Miller is plan C. He could be plan B. I would imagine he's probably plan C. I'm thinking it's going Skubal, Crochet, and then Miller, right? Because if you're the Orioles, right, if you're Baltimore, I think you do need a starting pitcher, right? They've had so many injuries this year. They need to add someone. You got Burns, you got G-Rod. After that, it's looking a little hairy if you're Baltimore, right? You got Dean Kramer. I don't know, Suarez, he hasn't been as great lately. It's a pretty fun story in the beginning. So I think you probably go after one more guy, right? Whether, that's someone like Yusei Kikuchi on the Blue Jays, something like that, like a rental guy. I don't think they go back to Flaherty at this point. They did it last year. It didn't work. So, I say you go after someone else. However, there's not much of a market at this point when it comes to starting pitching. There's not a lot out there, right? You got Zach Eflin on the Rays. You got Littell there. There are options, right? Unfortunately, a couple of those options happen to be in division for Baltimore. So what I think, if you are unable to get Skubal, if you're unable to get Crochet, you can go get someone like a Mason Miller and just beef up the bullpen, right? And you just go with what you got for the postseason and the rotation. And at least our rotation is not quite at full strength, but at least we can beef up this bullpen, and we know we have that in the postseason. I'd rather have at least a strong bullpen than nothing, right? I'm not saying the rotation has nothing, but you know what I mean. So, if you're looking at guys here, I would imagine, Tyler Wells, he's not coming back. Yeah, none of these guys are coming back, right? So you need something. If you're unable to get something, I say just give it your best shot at that point, and you just have to at least make your bullpen strong. Now, the one argument for Mason Miller is that, and I've been saying this for so long, and there's so many times there's some people out there, they don't want to listen when I say it. I don't know why, but I keep saying Mason Miller can be a starter after this year. The only reason he's in the bullpen is because he had, right, the elbow injury, right? And they basically came out and said before this season, we're going to put him in the bullpen this year. We're going to ramp him up that way. We're going to get his innings in that way. All right. Instead of just throwing him out there as a starter, let's just put him in there as a reliever where he can just get, a little bit of work, right, every time he goes out. All right. And they have also said they would like for him to be a starter in the future. And he also, recently came out and said that too. So Mason Miller can be a starter in the future. He is not a closer for the rest of his career, or at least it doesn't have to be, right? So you could still view him as a starting pitcher in the future. For this year, yes, you would be trading for him as a reliever. Yes, that is understood. I could see Baltimore going this route if Skubal doesn't work out. Now, let's put together a trade here. And you already know, the Orioles, they can get a deal done, right? They can make things happen. And I also think you got to think about it from this point, too. Would the A's want to trade Mason Miller, right? It's similar to the Tarik Skubal situation, but it's a little different even with Mason Miller because he has 5 more years of control after this, right? I'm just saying. But yeah, Mason Miller, they could definitely get a deal done. And for Mason Miller, I don't know. You might actually be able to get away with, even if you just did like a 1-for-1, like a Mason Miller for Basayo or a Mason Miller for Kobe Mayo. I would imagine for the White Sox, I don't think it would be the same situation with Crochet because I would think Chris Getz would actually want to have a package. But I wonder with the A's, right? Probably not, funny enough. Well, no, I think with Kobe Mayo, you could still do it. I was going to say they just drafted Nick Kurtz, but I keep forgetting Kobe Mayo can also place him third. So if you're the A's, you could definitely see a situation like that. Could you imagine? I'm going to point this out. Can you imagine this? Where for the corners in Oakland down the road. You got Nick Kurtz and Kobe Mayo. It's not bad. That's not bad if you ask me. I'm just saying. But, yeah, they could get a deal done here too. All right. You know, it's funny. I keep remembering things I wanted to talk about. I want to point out one more thing. I saw a pretty crazy situation earlier when it came to a Skubal trade. Let me actually get back to the Skubal trade talk here. I want to point this out too. I saw two different crazy situations. If you were to do Mr. Scoobs going to the Dodgers, I thought this was interesting. I don't think it happens. I would say there's actually less of a chance of this happening than Skubal actually getting traded. But could you maybe see a situation where Detroit says, hey, listen, we'll give you Skubal, but you got to take Javier Baez off our payroll. We'll send you some cash, but we need you to take Javi Baez, man. You know, when I first saw the idea, I thought it was ridiculous. But then I thought about it. And again, I don't think it happens. But maybe a change of scenery could be good for him. The Dodgers have shown they can get players back on track. I know you got Miguel Rojas there, but Miguel Rojas, you know, you can just put him, you know, he's on the bench at that point. He's your backup infielder. Javi Baez ends up being your starting shortstop, right? Or, I don't know, maybe the other way around. I don't know. Javi Baez is just on the team. And you got Mookie coming back. You'd have Mookie at second base. You'd have Javi Baez at short. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know it looks ridiculous. I don't think it's completely crazy, and I just at least wanted to share it. You would, in this situation, but again, would the Tigers want to be sending over $50 million? I don't know about that. I mean, that would be basically paying half of his salary, but they would have to pay as much as they could, you know, to get a good package in return. So I think this could be an interesting twist. I would imagine probably not. If he wasn't so bad, if you wouldn't have to send so much money along with him, I think you maybe could see it happening, but I think because his value is so underwater, I mean, I think the Tigers would want just an absolute treasure chest for Tarik Skubal. So, I mean, they would have to send so much cash along with it that would still free up payroll space for the future. But then again, you know, I wouldn't say it's crazy, but it's probably not going to happen. I thought that was interesting. I saw one other scenario out there with the Tigers and the Orioles. Now, there was an interesting story floating around. I don't know if anyone caught this. I feel like it wasn't... I don't remember who posted it on X. I don't remember who it was. I feel like it was a beat reporter. It was someone that's been kind of in the game, in the realm for a while when it comes to reporting. If someone has it in the chat, let me know. But there was supposedly conversations centered around... I'm getting mixed up here. No, we need the Tigers. There was... Or was it even the Tigers? I can't even remember. But what I remember reading was that supposedly the Orioles were offering up Jackson Holiday. They were offering up Jackson Holiday. I can't remember who the other piece was. Who was the other piece? Can someone in the chat? Jared Jones. That was it. Thank you, Hopper. That was like, I was going so blank on that. Supposedly, there was a conversation, I guess, that Jackson Holiday was being offered for Jared Jones. I personally don't buy it. If it was something, I would say, if anything, maybe some names were getting tossed around, and that was pretty much it. I don't buy that trade, or at least that being an actual proposed offer. I don't buy it. However, could you maybe see a situation? I know people are they're gonna get on to me for this. I know they will. What if you just did Tarik Skubal for Jackson Holiday? Is that crazy? I mean, Orioles fans, let me know. Would you be upset if you saw this go across your screen? Jackson Holiday is going to the Detroit Tigers for Tarik Skubal. Would you be upset about this? I don't know, man. I wonder. If there was a conversation at one point, could he be a possible trade piece? I don't think so. I don't buy it. But it's not completely, I think, out of the realm of possibilities. Here's the thing with Baltimore. They could. I know I'm going to get Orioles fans really grumpy with me. I'm not suggesting you trade Jackson Holiday. I'm just saying you could do it, and I think you could still move on with your future, right? And it's not going to be detrimental to your franchise, right? You still got guys down in the minor leagues, that can be your long-term second baseman, right? If I'm looking at Baltimore's top prospects, right? I mean, I mentioned Connor Norby earlier, right? That is still someone, right? You still got some other bats down in this system, right? A lot of them are outfielders, I'm just saying, but you do still have other pieces there. I know Jackson Holiday would be the piece that you would want to have. I don't know. I just found that curious. And don't you find the timing of it a little weird that a story like that came out so close to the deadline? Am I the only one that finds that interesting? Why would a story like that be coming out within weeks of the trade deadline? I don't know, but find that interesting. Yeah, Locke smart. Tigers have a young second baseman already. Well, Javi Baez stinks, right? So maybe he can be your next shortstop. I know you got Colt Keith. Listen, guys can move around. At this point, I am at the point now where, someone says, oh, well, they already have this guy. Oh, they have this guy. They have this guy. These guys today, you better get used to these, guys in the next 10 years where they're able to play multiple positions, right? That's what teams are looking for now, right? Jackson Holiday can easily move to another spot. He is that athletic. He can easily handle another position. So, yeah, in my personal opinion, I don't think you can just say, oh, well, they already have player A at this spot. No, players can move around, right? So, anyway, I think this is crazy. If it does happen, that would be, holy cow, I would lose my mind if this actually happened. Anyway, I know we kind of went back and forth there a little bit. There's a lot of thoughts going through my mind right now. But look out, man. Look out for the Orioles and the Dodgers. Now, let's get away from these two teams, okay? Let's finally get away from these two teams. We got a lot to talk about. Let's move on here. Everyone, if you can, while I'm getting the next story ready, hit that like button for me. I know the goal coming in to tonight was 100 likes. Right now, we are at 175. If you can help us get to 200, I will love you forever. That would be amazing. But let's talk a little about Mr. Jazz Chisholm, shall we? A little Jazz Chisholm never hurts to talk about. So now we've learned recently. We have learned recently that Mr. Chisholm, is on the trade market, right? And it's looking like it is going to happen, right? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when at this point. And here's why I think that is because I think the Marlins are simply just looking for value at this point when it comes to trade season. They're just looking to get prospects back, right? I think with the Jesus Luzardo injury, I think that really nipped them in the butt, and they were expecting to get a good haul for him. So that's why, I still think, go back, to the start of the season. You didn't know if Jazz was going to get moved or not. the biggest trade piece they had was Luzardo. Now that he is down, he'll probably be back in the next month and a half or so. He's probably not going to get traded. He's probably going to be more of an offseason kind of a piece, right? But Jazz Chisholm, on the other hand, is healthy this year, and he's having a pretty decent season. Listen, I see a lot of people say, Jazz, he's overrated, yada, yada, yada. I think... Yes, I can agree he's overrated, but I think it's because of the fact, he is just such a name, right? And he's just such a lightning rod, and he was the MLB The Show guy, and I think his name is definitely bigger than what he's actually doing on the field. However, I will say this. I still think, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I still think when you look at Jazz, there's a few things you have to look at with him. Yes, I know he's had the injury history. I'm past that point. He's played 93 games this year. He's looking healthy. He seems fine, right? I'm not worried about the injuries at this point. What I'm looking at are the numbers. Does he make your team better? All right, depends on where he goes, obviously. But if you're looking at Jazz, you're looking at a 249 batting average. You're looking at an OPS just over 720, right around 730. You're looking at a 102 WRC plus. You're looking at a Fangraph wins above replacement of 1.4. Now, when it comes to Jazz, there's a little bit more than the slash line, right? He's hitting for both power and he's stealing bases. He has a good base running at 1.7. So I think, and the fact that he also plays a high value position in center field. And then I see people too, I swear, people look for things that they try so hard to just cherry pick, right? When it comes to Jazz, they say, oh, he's having a horrible year in the outfield. It's like, oh, come on. Like, look at the past 2 years. He's been pretty solid out there in center field. Yeah, maybe the offense is the defense is a little down this year, but it's like, I mean, come on. Like, it's okay if you just don't like the player, but come on, let's not cherry pick, right? Jazz Chisholm is going to be, for the most part, a solid defensive center fielder, and he can also play second base. He could probably even just go play some shortstop if you needed him to. He has versatility. He has speed. He has pop from the left side. There is definitely a player here that can help out a team. I'm not saying he is going to be this superstar, game-changing talent that's going to carry you to the World Series like Tarik Skubal can do on the mound. He is not that impact kind of a player, but I think he's a piece that can help you try and get there, right? I think it depends on where he goes at the end of the day. And I thought this tweet just from John Morosi, I'm not the biggest fan of this tweet. He says here, the Mariners and Rays have yet to engage, sources. The Mariners and Rays have yet to engage in serious dialogue about Seattle's interest in adding an impact bat. But the teams are frequent trading partners and talks could advance in the days ahead. Why is this a tweet? Why? You're saying no, there's no news. You're saying no news is news. I get it, but at the same time, it's like, He did go on to say here, Tampa will be listening on a Rosarena, Diaz, or Paredes, right? I see you in the chat. Also, Lock Smart, Yanks have the Martian. Again, players can move around to different positions. Yes, they can move around. And when it comes to Jason Dominguez, I'm a big Dominguez fan. At the end of the day, listen, if you can try and make your team better, you just figure out the positions, right? Dominguez, you move him somewhere. I don't know, right? Jazz, he can play second, right? And then, Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres is not having a good year. At this point, Gleyber Torres is looking like a bat that he goes to the bench, right? And you put him in as a right-handed bat at this point, right? That's pretty much it's pretty much what I'm seeing. I think there is a case for the Yankees to go after Jazz Chisholm. We'll get to the Yankees in just a second. He mentions the Mariners. I do think the Mariners are a perfect fit. I definitely could see a situation with the Yankees too. But the Mariners, I feel like, have the need. However, I will say this. I think the Yankees have a good argument too, because the Yankees are dead last in base running, right? So if you could put him at second base, he's going to improve your team on the base paths, right? He's going to help you there. And then the left-handed bat at Yankee Stadium, I mean, we all know how that can happen. He can give you some more pop there. Yankee Stadium, that's a game changer when it comes to the power department, right? So I could definitely see a case there. But for Seattle, I think there's a case too, right? Because they need some kind of a boost. They need like a little bit of electricity there. They need something, right? They need something. And I think Jazz can be that piece, right? Give him a little bit of speed. The Mariners are kind of middle of the road right now. J-Rod, whoever you put out in center field, you can do J-Rod in center. You can move him to right. Jazz plays right, or Jazz goes to second, right? Jorge Polanco hasn't really worked out this year. But, you can figure it out there. I think he gives you a bit of a jolt. I don't know. I wonder if the Mariners end up doing anything there. We'll see. I feel like the Mariners, they made the Luis Castillo trade, right? They made the Polanco trade. They've made plenty of moves in the past. I do wonder if Jazz ends up being the guy, because I just wonder. I don't know. Like, they need a bat. Is he going to be that bat that really puts them over the edge? I'm not sure. Now, I could maybe see a situation where if you're looking at an Isaac Paredes, right? Now, you've had Josh Rojas rolling at third base. He got off to a pretty good start, but Rojas, he has started to tank a little bit. He's not really giving you a lot of power at third base. I mean, really, when you're looking at a third baseman, these are kind of not really the numbers you want. These are more numbers where you're probably looking at like second base for Josh Rojas. He has played well defensively, right? If you take a look here, he's played mostly at third. He's played some second. He's giving you the glove at third. But at this point, I think the Mariners need something for the offense at the end of the day. And Rojas, he's done some good things this year, but I think you could use an upgrade. I think someone like a Paredes could be an answer here. If we're looking at what a trade could look like for Paredes, he is not going to be cheap. He's not going to be cheap. He's definitely going to bring some power. He's going to bring some production, but he's also going to bring club control. So if we're looking here at what a deal could possibly look like, that's not the right team. I'm thinking of the wrong team. Well, my head is going blank. I'm looking for the Rays. There we go. Here we go. So Isaac Paredes, as you can see, you're looking at a $50 million median value. And, it's going to cost a few prospects there. And he has 3 more years of control after this season. So this could be a long-term option for the Mariners at third base. Something to think about, right? For the Rays, they would be, at this point, it's weird with the Rays, right? Because they're not just completely out of this thing, right? If I were to go to the standings, I mean, they're 5.5 out. It's not impossible, but I feel like the Rays know at this point that this is probably just not their year. I think they're still trying to recover from the whole Wander Franco thing. Yes, disgusting what happened there, but at the end of the day, from a baseball point of view, that was a loss from a baseball point of view. And I feel like they just, I don't know, that affected them, right? And it's very clear they're still trying to make up for it. So I think at this point, the Rays, while they are still trying to, compete this year, they're going to try and win games. I still think they're looking towards the future, especially with what happened with Wander Franco. I mean, that came completely out of left field. They were not planning on that to happen, obviously. So, I mean, if you're looking at someone like Paredes, he can bring you back a lot. So if you're looking at what the Mariners could send back, there's a lot of options. Could you send back either a Cole Young or a Cole Emerson? Could you do a Harry Ford? Could you do a Lazaro Montez? I would imagine Mariners fans are not going to like that. Mariners fans, you guys are very tough to trade with. I will say that. But, there are pieces here in Seattle that maybe could get this done. If Seattle were to look for another bat, I mean, I'm looking at left field right now. I see Victor Robles out there right now. Seeing Haniger, they brought him in. They brought him back. That just hasn't really worked out for the most part. You got Canzone. He's on the IL right now with the groin. Would the Mariners maybe look towards a team in the division? Maybe they could go after someone like a Brent Rooker. Could that be a possibility? At this point, I think for the A's, with where they are as an organization, I don't think they would even care to trade in division. I think that's something to pay attention to. Maybe someone like Brent Rooker could be interesting for them. We'll see. But either way, I think the Mariners are going to add some kind of a bat. Is that Jazz Chisholm? I mean, according to John Morosi, they have not had discussions. I don't know. I don't think a Rosarena really gets you on track with the year that he's having. I think at first base at this point, you got Ty France. I guess Locklear got sent back down recently. Yeah, so he got sent back down. So, I don't know. I feel like they just roll with that at first base at this point. I don't know. That's what I think. I think either Rooker or Jazz, you do something like that. We'll see. One guy, I already have it highlighted here on the rundown. One guy could be maybe Luis Robert. Could Luis Robert be an option for Seattle? He has been a guy that teams, fans of teams out there, they would love to have a guy like him in their lineup. And he has been connected with the Mariners in the past. That seems to be a popular destination on where he can go. If they wanted to get a deal done, they definitely could if they really wanted to. So it says here, Bob Nightingale, the White Sox, who were uncertain that oft-injured center fielder Luis Robert would have high enough trade value to move, now are cautiously optimistic they can trade him. And again, this is another one. Everyone looks to the injury history. Like, okay, I know. I get it. Injury history, yeah, I know. But last year, for the most part, he showed he was good. This year, had just like a freak hip injury. I'm going to tell you right now, like that, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's that big of a deal, right? I don't think the hip thing it was a hip flexor strain, I think. I don't know. I've had a lot of dinged up body parts on me in the last 10 years. Personally, for me, if I see something going on with a player's shoulder, elbow, something like that, yeah, I'm a little, hip. I think that's something that you could easily manage at the end of the day. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I really don't. I personally just don't think that's going to be something moving forward. Shoulder, yeah, that's never something you want as a position player. You don't want to mess up the shoulder, right? But with Luis Robert, people were thinking, oh, he's not even having a good year. He's been hurt. He's not really doing much with the batting average this year. The on base has been pretty low. However, it looks like Robert is starting to shake off some rust as of late. In the last 15 games, he's hitting 293, 369 on base, a 500 slugging. He's hitting pretty well lately. It seems like he's starting to get the timing down. He's getting himself back into that groove. I think there's a chance Robert ends up getting moved. And it didn't look great a couple of weeks ago because of the numbers. But now that he's starting to get himself together, yeah, I think you could see a team make a phone call. I would love. Cardinals fans, you guys hate me for this one, but I'm sorry. I'm going Luis Robert over Michael Ciani any day. I love the glove of Michael Ciani. I really do. I think, very good what he's been doing out there defensively. He hasn't done anything with the bat. And here's the thing with Robert. He's also a good defender, right? So to me, if I'm going one or the other, I'm going Robert, man. Like, if I feel like that Cardinals lineup needs one more bat. I think he helps extend that lineup a little bit. I think he's perfect for St. Louis. Personally, that's just me. I don't know. Will they actually give up the prospects to get a deal done? Probably not. Either way, I think for placement-wise, I think it makes sense. But Seattle, maybe. I feel like with Robert, though, I mean, yeah, that could be a bat, I think. You know, he does strike out a little bit, so that's not going to help the strikeouts in Seattle. But I think there's a chance Robert ends up getting moved, especially with how well he's been playing lately. So keep an eye out for this. The White Sox, they're open for business. They're trying to get some stuff done, not just with Crochet, but also Luis Robert. Moving on here, let's get to a couple other little stories here on the news cycle. And when it comes to the Minnesota Twins, they are looking for some starting pitching on the rental side of things, right? So it says here, rumblings around the organization would suggest the Twins are interested in acquiring a rental starting pitcher, something they've avoided doing in the past. They mentioned Yusei Kikuchi here. I also did that one in my one trade for each team video. I had Yusei Kikuchi going to Minnesota. I think it makes sense when you look at what Yusei Kikuchi is doing this year, having a solid year. ERA, is at a 4.42, but the FIP is at a 3.68. You got some pretty good defense there in Minnesota. I think he would be a better fit there. But if I'm looking at the Minnesota Twins, if I'm looking at this rotation, you don't got the Sonny Gray anymore, right? You don't got that. So you're going into the postseason with a combo of Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, but the problem, and also Bailey Ober's there too, but Simeon Woods Richardson, he's also probably going to be on some kind of an innings limit, right? With Richardson, the most innings he has thrown in his professional career so far, he had right around 120 last year. So what's that going to be this year? Is it going to be like 150, 160, something like that? I don't know. I mean, he's definitely still got more time. He's probably got a lot more innings left. So, but they might want to add a starter, for the postseason. I'm not surprised to even see this kind of a report. I think Kikuchi would make some sense, a veteran guy, someone that can pitch in the postseason. Yeah, I would like this for the Minnesota Twins. You got someone like a Jack Flaherty out there as well with the Tigers. Again, it's that in-division thing, right? It's that in-division trade. You never know if it's going to happen, but I think teams are more open to it now than ever. We saw Alex Verdugo go to the Yankees, for crying out loud. When do you ever see that? So look out for the Twins. I think they will be trying to get something done. Let's talk about my Red Sox to finish up tonight's stream. Thank you for helping us get to 200 likes. Really appreciate that. But looking at my Red Sox, the question is, with my Red Sox, what are they going to do, man? Man, they've been playing some great baseball lately. I tried telling all of you, man. I tried telling you, listen, look out for this Red Sox team. No one wanted to listen to me. I was trying to say, I wasn't saying they're going to win the World Series. Maybe once or twice.
Trucking accidents are different.
What in the world is happening? But I was saying, no, they're probably not going to win a World Series, but I think this is a team that could surprise some people. And when you look at where the Red Sox are at right now in the standings. Hold on one second. I'm just pulling up the quote so you guys have the info. So here we go. Where is that quote? Okay, here we go. So here are the Red Sox as of right now. I mean, you know what bothers me, everyone? You know what bothers me is before the season, I thought, man, I really want to put the Red Sox in third place. But I never want to pick against Tampa because every time I pick against Tampa, they always prove me wrong. I was not feeling strong about Toronto this year. I just wasn't. I felt weird about them. I still gave them a winning record at the end of the day, but I just didn't feel it. I put them in fourth, right? I gave the Red Sox one less win. I'm going to say this from now on. When it comes to preseason predictions, I don't care how bad. I don't care how bad it might look. I'm just going to go with what my heart is saying. I'd rather it just be, even if it's awful, right? I'm just going to do what the heart is singing at the time. I should have gone with the Red Sox for third place because that's looking really good right now. Romano Jr. Ramirez, Robbie, talk about the Astros. Well, I don't see any news on the Astros as of right now. I'm not seeing anything out there. I did see a little something, maybe looking for some first baseman out there. We'll see. I think they could definitely do something like that. Maybe, I don't know. Josh Bell, I saw someone mention that out there. I don't think that's going to happen. I just feel like Josh Bell at this point probably is not helping really anyone. I don't know. Maybe the Astros go after pretty good first baseman out there. That's what I think they should try to do. Or they go after something for the rotation. I think that would be good. So my Red Sox, they're 53-42, 4.5 back in the division. They have a wild card spot as of right now. Who would have thought the Red Sox would be 4.5 back in the division? Right? With this Orioles team, everyone was so high on the Orioles, and the Yankees, they were looking good coming into the year, and they are 4.5 back. That is crazy. But you're probably looking more likely at a wild card, finish for the Red Sox somewhere around here. They have the third wild card as of right now. They do have a tough schedule coming up. I do want to point that out with the Red Sox. They don't got it easy going into the second half. But Craig Breslow, he did speak with the Boston Globe recently, and it says here, I talked through the offseason about an unwillingness to trade future wins for now wins. But certainly what's happening on the field is a reason to evaluate all of these things. When I took this job, my hope was that I was going to be sitting in this seat in July thinking that we're playing meaningful games. We see the opportunity to play meaningful games down the stretch, and the opportunity to continue to invest in the team is one that was in front of us and could make sense. He also goes on to say here, I think what often happens when you try to go down both paths of buying and selling is you end up with neither. To me, the one thing that we need to do is determine what we are trying to accomplish and be completely convicted and decisive in accomplishing that. And the one thing that the team can do to help us make that determination is to win as many games as possible over the next 3 or 4 weeks. Now, for me personally, I think the Red Sox, they need to add something for the rotation, right? They got off to a good start this year. They've been taking their bumps. Houck's been having a great year. Crawford has been really solid this year. Brian Bayo has taken a step back this year. Pivetta, he's had his ups and downs this year. Criswell, he's the fifth guy, long guy, but he's done an admirable job this year, the $1 million man. But I think the Red Sox definitely need to do something with the rotation. I would love for them to add a club-controlled piece for next year, someone that can help this year and give them something for next year. I do think Zach Eflin is a perfect guy to go after. It can help give some salary relief for Tampa Bay, by the way, who are officially opening a new stadium in St. Petersburg that was voted on today and approved. Pretty exciting. I live in the Central Florida area, so hey, I go to Tropicana Field a lot, and hey, nice to see they're going to be getting a new ballpark, and hey, but maybe they could use a little bit of salary relief right now. Zach Eflin, his salary is going to be going up next year to $18 million. Maybe the Red Sox would like to take on that. I could definitely see that. I could also see them adding some kind of a right-handed bat. Teoscar Hernandez would be looking amazing as of right now. It is what it is. They're going to be getting Tristan Casas back here soon, so I wonder about the future of Dominic Smith. He's basically he's a zero Fangraph wins above replacement as of right now. He's had a couple of moments, but in the end, I feel like Dom Smith, he's probably going to end up getting DFA'd. Because really, what do you do with him at this point? You have so many lefty bats, and then Casas comes back. I don't know. I don't think Dom Smith ends up staying, unfortunately. But You're going to be getting Casas back. You got a lot of lefties. I feel like you need a right-handed bat in there. I feel like a guy that can play first base, give him some DH time with Yoshida there. I definitely think you could see some kind of a right-handed bat. Could you see a guy like a Mark Canha, a Mark Canha, right? I think that's very possible. I always want to say Canha or Canha. I always go back and forth. It's Mark Canha. I could see someone like him, right, coming in. He's a guy that's, a good clubhouse guy. I feel that's someone that can play first base. He can even play some outfield. He can DH. I could see someone like a Mark Canha coming to Boston, right? Like a low-key kind of a piece like that. I think you could definitely see someone like him. I would like for this rotation to get a bit of a boost, right? We'll see. I do think the Red Sox will add. I just don't think it's going to be something significant. I would be shocked if it's something significant. But even when I'm even looking at, when I'm looking at even what's out there, none of the significant pieces, really make a lot of sense for the Red Sox at the end of the day. Yeah, I guess you could make a case for Crochet, right? But for Crochet, the Red Sox are going to have to give up meaningful pieces to get a deal done. I've seen Red Sox fans, talk about that possibility. It'd be basically Chris Sale all over again at this point. Listen, if we got Garrett Crochet, I wouldn't be upset about that at all. But you would have to give up quite a lot for him. It's funny. Red Seat Radio, he actually put out a tweet a little earlier today, and he said he has been seeing people suggesting Roman Anthony could end up being a trade piece. I thought that was really interesting, right? People are thinking of that idea. Roman Anthony, he exploded onto the scene last year. He rose up just pretty much all the prospect rankings. And however, his numbers are a little down this year. And however, he's still showing good advanced metrics. The exit velocity still looks pretty good. Still for the most part, showing a pretty good approach at the plate, right? If we're looking at Roman Anthony, at the end of the day, like his strikeouts are up. It's not great. He still walks a decent amount, but last year his walk percentage compared to the strikeouts were just so good. Especially in Double-A, right? He was showing a really good approach there. In A-ball, he was striking out definitely more, right? But, it's kind of evened out a little bit this year. Still walking a decent amount. The strikeouts are a little up there. He's still getting on base at a good amount. I still think Roman Anthony is a really solid prospect. But, I saw people, Red Seat Radio mentioning, maybe that could be a possibility. And, I kind of thought about it at first. I'm like, no, Roman Anthony's not going anywhere. However, they did just draft Braden Montgomery. Don't think that means it's, I don't think that makes it responsible to think Roman Anthony is a trade piece. You don't even know what Braden Montgomery is going to do for you at this point. Just because, yes, he was a birthday gift, he was a projected top 10 pick, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be, a bona fide stud in Boston at the end of the day. Like, you got to see how he progresses down to the minor leagues, right? So I don't think Roman Anthony is going to get moved, right? You got some other pieces down here in the minor league system. The Red Sox have really built this system up. Hein Bloom, wherever you are, thank you very much. Appreciate that, my friend. But one guy who's really risen up the boards, Red Seat Radio mentioned him, Christian Campbell. He's kind of taken that Roman Anthony approach from last year, a guy that's really exploded onto the scene this year. He's in Double-A as of right now, over 32 games. He has an OPS over 1,100. Could this be a guy that the Red Sox try to sell high on to maybe get something done? Again, I'm talking very hypothetical here, but Christian Campbell has really thrusted himself onto the scene here, having himself a good year. The Red Sox, they got a lot of middle infielders. They got a lot of outfielders. Christian Campbell, he could be someone that you could deal. I just don't see the Red Sox doing anything significant. I really don't. I see them making like a small move. I think someone like a Zach Eflin is going to be the most they go. I could see Jack Flaherty as a rental, but I don't know. I wonder if the Red Sox want to go for a club-controlled piece. Jack Flaherty, he is prone to the home run ball this year. Would he fit well at Fenway Park? I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I mean, I think the Red Sox will make a small move. Personally, maybe a couple of small moves, I think, something to where they don't get wrecked when it comes to giving up prospects, but where they can give up some pieces that won't hurt them long term, but a couple of pieces that can help improve the major league team. Someone like Mark Canha, right-handed bat, Canha, I go back and forth, I'm telling you. And maybe a pitcher for the rotation, maybe a bullpen piece, right? I could see something like that, something not very significant, but something that can maybe make an impact for the team. But everyone, that's where I'm at for today. That's all I got. I feel like I rambled for a long time. I might have been pretty rusty when it came to talking the rumors, talking the news. It's been a while since I've done this kind of a stream. I know we've done the power rankings, but it's not the same. I got to get dialed back into the rumor mill. I got to get dialed back into using the simulator here on the show. But everyone, I'm going to wrap it up there. I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight. It's always a pleasure. We will be doing this for the next couple of weeks. Any news that comes across my table will be presented here to all of you, and I'll give my thoughts and try to break things down as much as I can. Everyone on the way out, if you can, hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you are new. Make sure you share the show for the replay viewers as well. But most importantly, make sure the bell is turned on. Greatly appreciate that. And everyone, if you have not seen my one trade for each team, go check that out. And I also just posted a video a little earlier. I gave my own personal winners for the draft. I did leave off some teams because I felt like that video would have just ended up going on too long. So if your team is not on that video and you feel like your team had a good draft, go comment it down below in the comments, and we'll have a little chat about it. So everyone, go watch that. Thank you again for coming on out, and I'll talk to you next time.